So this lesson is on parallel and perpendicular part 3. So which point lies on the line that passes through 6, -3 and is parallel to the graph of the line y equals -1/3 x plus 12? Okay, so first of all, let's figure out what line we're talking about. I want to be parallel to this guy. So my slope is a -1/3. Also want to pass through this point. Okay, well with that information, can you find me my line? Okay, so y equals mx plus b. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times -1 is -2. Add 2. B equals -1. So my equation is y equals -1/3 x minus 1. Awesome. But that's not what the answers are. The answer says which point lies on this line that we have just found. So what you have to do is plug this sucker into your calculator and look at a table that has all the points in it. This guy will pull up. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my calculator. I'm going to go to y equals. And I'm going to type in -1/3 x minus 1. And if you want to, you can graph him. So you can see he's got a y-intercept of -1, and it looks like he goes down 1, right 3. That's great. And you can try to eyeball these points that are part of your multiple choice and see which one lies on this line, but there's a really neat way you can find the answer. There's a place on your calculator where all the points live that are on that line, and it's under the word table, which is in the upper right-hand corner. Above the button that says graph in blue, it says table. So if you'll go second graph, that'll hit your table. And that comes up with all the points. And I'm choosing my up arrow or your down arrow to scroll through all of these points. So now all I have to do is test them. So A is 9, -2. So let me get down here to where x is 9. And when x is 9, my y is not -2, so I know it's not A. Okay, let's look at C since it's sitting right here. C says 3, -2. We'll look right there. 3, -2. That's my answer. The other 2 points are not going to be on that graph. Okay, so let's recap what we did. I took my slope, which is supposed to be parallel. So I knew my slope was going to be a -1/3, and I took my point, 6, -3. I plugged it all into my y equals mx plus b to get my b. And then I wrote the equation of my line. But since the answers are not equations of my line, the answers are points on my line, then I took my equation, I plugged it into my y equals, and then do you remember where we went next? We're going to go to table. So second table, and this is where all my points live. And I just found the one of the 4 points that it lives in my table by using my up and down arrows to scroll. So it's really, really easy. Just one extra step on your calculator after you find the equation of your line. Number 2, what would the value of k that will make that equation perpendicular to the line y equals -2/3 x plus 4? So I want to be perpendicular. Oh, I've got this weird k here. But I want to be perpendicular to him, so I know I want my slope to be a +3/2. And you can see that that's an answer right here. That's not what it's asking. It's not asking what the slope needs to be. But I need to know that I want my slope to be a positive 3 over 2. What I need to do is take this guy, and I need to solve him for y. So I'm going to subtract my kx. 6y equals negative kx plus 10, and then divide by 6. So here is his slope. This is what I want. What can I put right in here for k so that when I put a negative on it and I divide it by 6, I get a positive 3 over 2? Well, let's test it. If I want to end up with a positive answer and I have a negative here, then doesn't k need to be negative so that I'll have a minus, and that'll make it a positive? So I know that all 3 of those are out. All right, let's try the negative 9. If I have negative k over 6 and I plug in a negative 9 for my k, that's a negative 9 over 6, which is a positive. And 9 over 6 reduces to 3 over 2. That's my answer. Okay, so again, I want it to be perpendicular. I know that his slope is a negative 2/3, so I know I want my slope to be a positive 3 over 2. I took my equation, I solved him for y, even though he has this weird k in it. Now I have to figure out what number needs to go there so that when I slap a negative on it and divide it by 6, I will get a positive 3 over 2. Because I want to end up with a positive, and there's a negative already here, I knew I needed to plug in a negative. So I would have the minus to make it a positive. When I put the 9 in over the 6, it reduces to 3 over 2. Let's try another one. What value of k would make the line perpendicular to that? So if I want to be perpendicular to him, what does my slope need to be? It needs to be a negative 4. So I take my kx plus 5y equals 20, and I solve for y. So y equals negative k over 5x plus 4. So I need this to become that. So if I have negative k over 5 and I want it to end up becoming a negative 4, well, the negative is already there. So I don't need k to be a negative because the negative is already there. What number can you put there so that when you divide it by 5, you get a 4? 20. If k is a 20, if you stick a 20 right there, that'd be negative 20 over 5, which would be a negative 4. Okay. Which point lies on the line that has a y-intercept of 1 and is perpendicular to k? Which point lies on the line that has a y-intercept of 1 and perpendicular to the line k? All right, so if I'm perpendicular, let's find his slope. So he is down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is a negative 1/4. I want to be perpendicular to him, so my slope needs to be a positive 4. And I have a y-intercept of a 1. Well, that's my b. So I need to be y equals 4x plus 1. Again, I have a bunch of points. Where do we go when our answers are a bunch of points? We go to our calculator. So pull my calculator up. I go to my y equals, I clear this guy out, and I type in my new equation, 4x plus 1. Then where do I go where all my points live? And that's your table. So I go second table. Okay, let's test -2, -8. No, -2, -7. So A's out. Let's test B. -1, -4. No, I'm at -1, -3. 1, 5. Yep, winner. 1, 5. Which is an equation for the line that passes through the point 1, 3 and is parallel to RS. I want to be parallel to him. So let's count his slope. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2. Up 4 over 2, so his slope is 2. I want to be parallel to him, so my slope is a 2. And I pass through the point 1, 3. I don't know my y-intercept. I need to find it. So y equals 2 times 1 plus b. Subtract the 2. B equals 1. So y equals 2x plus 1. Line M is the perpendicular bisector of GH. Bisector is fancy for midpoint. What is the equation of line M? So I have two very important words here. I have perpendicular and I have midpoint. So I want to be perpendicular to him. So let's deal with that part first. So let's find his slope. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, down 7, right 4. So if I want to be perpendicular to him, then my slope needs to be 4 over 7. Okay, so he's out and he's out. So if my slope is a 4 over 7, now I need to find my b. Well, normally this is where either they tell me the b or they tell me a point I go through. Well, they did tell me that I am going through the midpoint of GH. So what I need is the midpoint. So I need the points for G. So -2, 3. I need the points for H. And then I'm going to find the midpoint of those two. So I'm going to add them and half them. So -2 plus 2 is 0. Half that is 0. 3 plus -4 is a -1. Half that, that'd be a -1/2. So this is where I would take my point and my slope and plug it into y equals mx plus b. But if you're on your toes, you're going to notice that this is a gift because this is my y-intercept because my x is 0. So y equals 4 over 7x minus 1/2. Okay, so perpendicular was important. Bisector, which just means midpoint, is important. Perpendicular, that's easy. I find my slope. I go perpendicular, so I know my slope is 4 over 7. That knocks out 2 of my answers. Midpoint, that means that I go through the midpoint of G and H, so I have to find the midpoint. So I go back to Unit 1 and I use my midpoint formula where I add my x's and half them and add my y's and half them, and I get this point. Normally this is where I would take this and my slope and plug it into y equals mx plus b to find my b. But if I'm on my toes, I will notice that this is my y-intercept because x is 0, so I don't have to do any more work. Okay. Let's try another one. A line segment that has endpoints 3, 7, I'm going to draw, and 5, 9. The point M is the midpoint. What is an equation of the line? Two important words, perpendicular and passing through M, which is the midpoint. Okay, so first things first, let's find the midpoint. 3 plus 5 is 8, half that is 4. 7 plus 9 is 16, half that is 8. So this is a point that I go through. But I want to be perpendicular to LN. So now what do I need to find? I need the slope of LN, and I need to be perpendicular to it. So I'm going to find the slope between these 2 points. and I want to be perpendicular to that. So if I want to be perpendicular to that, I need to change its sign and flip it. Remember, when you flip a 1, it doesn't really show up. So there's my slope. Well, if you look at your multiple choice, all your slopes are -1s. That doesn't help me. But I need my b. So I'm going to take my slope and my point and shove it all into y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. So my y-intercept is a 12. So y equals -1x plus 12. Very carefully pick your answer. This is a great opportunity for you to use these videos to pause it, go back, re-listen to problem after problem after problem until this starts sinking in, because there are a lot of different facets going on in this problem. What is the equation of a line perpendicular to the one that goes to the points -1, 0, and 0, 3, and we pass through that guy? Okay, so perpendicular, I need to find his slope. So 0 minus 3 over -1 minus 0. So his slope is a 3. So my slope is a -1/3. So who's out? Those two. I pass through the point 3, 2. That's not a gift, so I actually have to go work it out. Y equals mx plus b. So this one. A line segment has endpoints -6, 4, and 2, 8. The point M is the midpoint. That's an important word. What is the equation of a line parallel? That's important too. So first things first, let's find, you want to find parallels. So let's find the slope of AB. So 4 minus 8 over -6 minus 2. Now if I'm parallel to him, my slope is also a 1/2, because parallel lines, you don't change the slope. But I need the midpoint. So now I'm going to find the midpoint of AB. So this is where you add in half. So -6 plus 2 is -4. Half that's a -2. 4 plus 8 is 12. Half that's a 6. So I go through the point -2, 6. So now I'll plug this all in to find my B. So then I take my slope and my y-intercept. Again, notice I did not change my slope because I'm parallel. Number 10, a line segment has endpoints of -2, 5, and 6, 11. M is the midpoint. I'm going to draw L, N, -2, 5, 6, 11. M is the midpoint. I want to be perpendicular. Find the midpoint first. Add, that'd be 4, half it, that's a 2. Add, that's a 16, half it, that's an 8. Okay, so now I'm going to find the slope of LN. So 5 minus 11 over -2 minus 6. -6 over -8, which reduces positive 3 over 4. Now that's what I want to be perpendicular to, so I want to be a -4/3. Okay, so now I'm going to take my slope and my point. Well, which one is my point? The midpoint. I go through the midpoint. 8 equals -4/3 times 2 plus b. Will my trick work here? No, 3 does not go into a 2. So this is when you grab your calculator and you do -4 divided by 3 times 2. I don't want a decimal, so I go math, fraction. So that's a -8/3. So I have 8 equals a -8/3 plus b. Then I need to add 8/3 to both sides. So now on my calculator, I'm going to do 8 plus 8/3 gives me ugly decimal. I want pretty fraction. 32/3. So my equation is y equals, there's my slope, -4/3 x plus 32/3. Okay, so let's try these just for practice. Line segment has endpoints J and L. The point K is the midpoint. What is the equation of a line perpendicular? So I have two important words here, midpoint and perpendicular. I strongly suggest you start by drawing a line. There's J and there's L. 2, 4, 6, 8. Midpoint was K. Go ahead and find the midpoint if you want to. Add in half. That'd be 8, so that'd be 4. And that'd be 12, so that'd be a 6. Okay, so I've dealt with the midpoint. Now let's deal with the fact that I'm perpendicular. So I'm going to find the slope between J and L. So 4 minus 8/2 minus 6. -4/-4, which is a +1. But I want to be perpendicular to him, so I want my slope to be a -1. So let's see, that takes D out and C out. A and B both have a slope of -1. So now I'm going to take my slope and my point. Y equals mx plus b. Add 4. B equals 10, +10. So the answer is A. What is the equation of a line that passes through 2, 2 and is parallel to a line that goes through those 2 points? Okay, so parallel. So I need to find the slope that goes through those 2 points. So y minus y over x minus x. 8/16. So 1/2. And I want to be parallel to him, so I want my slope to be a 1/2. So who's out? B is out. C is out. We're down to A and D. Okay, so here's my slope. I need a point. Passes through the point 2, 2. So y equals mx plus b. There you go. Now this was a lot, and I went through it fast, but I'm expecting you to be using this as a reteaching tool, not from a teach from scratch. So replay these, go find the ones that you're struggling with on your homework, and go back and re-listen and watch the examples that you're having problems with. The more you see it and the more you hear it, the more it'll make sense. But then you have got to practice it. So your homework on this material is massively important. So take your time and really put effort into this.